Cecil, we were just talking with Tommy Ford. He had put out on Facebook, I guess it's Coleman Coliseum's 50th anniversary. I think maybe he said it was tomorrow, and people were talking about all the different memories there. What are some of your most fondest memories of Coleman Coliseum?
Well, the actual first memories I have of it was we would come to the state tournament.
Yeah.
And watch the high school. I remember watching, I guess it was in 73, Coach Sanderson will remember, J.F. Shields came up from Beatrice and had John Drew. And John was playing two-way basketball. He was about 6. He looked exactly like he looked when he played for the Atlanta Hawks, averaged 20 points a game in the NBA. So he was as good a high school basketball player as I ever saw. Now, I don't think academics afforded Coach Sanderson the opportunity to recruit.
Well, let me tell you what happened on that deal real quickly. Auburn was recruiting him real heavy, and they had an idea that they were going to help the school give away a television and buy tickets for it. Boy, you can't believe how lucky John. They drew his parents' name out of the hat.
No.
What are the odds?
Wow. Just so happens, huh?
I'll tell you what, though, he looked like a man, an NBA man, playing.
Yeah, he
was. Basketball.
You're right.
Hey, Cecil.
Congratulations on the TV.
Cecil, people have talked about that Alabama beating Florida on the Derek McKee tip-in. Now, there was 2.7 seconds. And people got mad. Doc Blanchard, I believe, was keeping the clock. He was eating popcorn. So he had his hand in the popcorn. They threw it in, and he had to put the popcorn in. And then he started the clock. How many seconds was that, Cecil?
Well, that was a good lob pass from Terry Connor.
You know, Doc had reached the point where the reflexes weren't what they once were.
That's called home court advantage, Cecil.
Back in the day.
Yeah, it was.
But you get it on the road too, so it sort of evened out.
Yeah, no doubt. Before that, Avi and I had messaged back and forth, but I was not at the game. I had a game that morning, but I got back and watched it on TV on tape delay. But that's the kind of crowd that I remember. Back in the '80s when it was full in there, and the atmosphere was just unbelievable. So that building is perfectly fine when you put that many people. And just trying to talk about that atmosphere, maybe compared to what it was in the 80s.
Well, the conference games in the 80s were just so big, so good, and into the early 90s. For one thing, guys played 4 years, so you got rivalries going. You got to know guys. You'd have been Bernard King today, you'd see him one time, and that would have been it. Bernard came every year. For better or for worse. Or
Cecil, you back?
Yeah,
okay, Cecil, you back?
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, Barkley played in there 3 times.
Yeah.
So you really had heated rivalries, and there was some of that on Saturday. I thought the attention that people were giving to Trae Young, and deservedly so. He's an outstanding player. Stimulated some interest, and then they've always drawn. If you can get a Saturday afternoon tip, they've always drawn pretty well on Saturday. So that helped, and kind of good tempo to the game, and so people really got into it. So it was great, absolutely.
Yeah, down.
I hate to ask a football question doing all this. I brag so much on Alabama basketball. I'm gonna ask this because I didn't get to talk about it. I didn't get to talk about it today, and I want to. Tell me what you think is the real process as far as Coach Saban deciding that he is going to hire a coach. Not any particular. I do it on my own. I call the AD. I go to visit the AD. The AD comes to visit me. Tell me how you think that might work.
Well, I think that if he's hiring an assistant coach,
yeah,
he's contacting the AD. I mean, he's probably not personally contacting the AD. He's probably making sure that the person he wants to hire has contacted his AD. It's usually somebody he has some familiarity with. He'll get a recommendation from people he trusts in the business, and then they'll
All right.
make an offer. So.
Let me butt in. Answer me, when he already knows who he's going to hire, what's his process within the university? Does he call?
Okay.
Does he call the AD? Does he tell the? What's his process within? Does he? You know, everybody says he does it on his own. He's his own boss.
Well, you have to do a certain amount of background check and NCAA compliance check.
Yeah.
You have to do that first. So he tells the AD and gets that process started, and it can go pretty quickly. You know, they call Indianapolis and make sure there's not any red flags, but you at least have to have that clearance before. That's why the way it is now. That's why you'll see these reports and people come out and say Nick Saban's about to hire the kicking coach from Texas A&M, and you won't see an announcement for 3 or 4 days. Because they're going through that process.
How about the money? Does Nick Saban, does he decide the money, or does he talk to Greg and say, hey, I need to be in this range. We need, for coordinators, we need to pay him a little over $1 million.
That's a good question.
They probably have a pool. In fact, I know, he has a pool that's what he can spend on assistants. I think he's at a point where if he goes in and says, I've got $700,000, but I need $800,000 to sign this guy, I think the finance probably rubber stamps that on through. So
in other words, what you're saying, he goes to finance on that, and it may be a $700,000 deal, but finance okays it without him having to go back to the AD.
I would
probably.
Think so. I would think so. Yeah.
Good. I can't imagine.
Unless it's just some exorbitant. It's funny to talk about assistant coaches' salaries now in football and basketball.
It's ridiculous. It's very interesting to me, though.
$100,000, $150,000, that's just pocket check. That's just
I know.
Just,
I know. I understand that. It's just very interesting to me that people, not people, because I don't worry about people, but I guess my own interest as to how that's done with a guy who pretty much is maybe you might say his own boss a little bit. Not completely, because I think the AD is very good, but sort of on the outside looking in, you think that. I just was interested in that. I wanted to talk about it tomorrow, and I wanted to ask you.
Well, when you look at LSU paying their defense coordinator $2.5 million. I mean, I'm sure you
had to be approved by the AD.
That had to be approved by higher than the AD.
Do you ever have to walk down the hall and tell Coach Bryant you needed $2.5 million for an assistant?
No, I never had to go walk down. Not at all. I go see Coach Bailey.
How fast Coach Bailey turned you around?
Yeah, Coach Bailey. But now there's a difference in LSU and Alabama. That's the point I'm trying to make. Everything you do at LSU, you go through, and maybe I think everything you go through at Alabama, you go through, but everybody else thinks differently. So.
There has to be a process. There's
that's the process is what I'm interested in.
Processes that are in effect as far as NCAA and as far as salary and so forth. With that said, Nick, obviously, the amount of success he's had is virtually autonomous in that if he says he needs it, they're going to try, rather than say you can't have it, they're going to figure out a way he can get it.
Yeah, no doubt. Cecil, what does that say about going back to basketball, about SEC basketball? They were favored 3 out of 10. They won 6 out of 10. The most impressive wins to me, I thought Alabama would win the game, but was Tennessee going to Iowa State. Not that they won by the margin they won. Vanderbilt knocking off a good TCU team, and then nobody gave Kentucky a chance. And after
I didn't give him a chance down 17 in the second half.
I didn't either. I went to the grocery store. I don't even know what happened.
They really played well. They held it together. They started really dominating on the boards. And West Virginia's not a great half-court offensive team. They need to rebound and score and transition a little bit. And Kentucky just shut that down, and Knox really shot the ball well. So that was that's a tough play. Morgantown's a tough place to go in and win, even if you're Kentucky. And as you were saying earlier, Kentucky sees that everywhere they go. But still, you get down 17. That's quite a performance. I think in the Tennessee-Iowa State game, that's the lowest that Iowa State's ever been held in their Hilton Arena, 45 points. I think
Yeah.
that's the best defensive end. Rick's really done a good job at Tennessee. This
Boy,
year.
he has. He's done a great job.
He's done a good job. Then you mentioned TCU and Vanderbilt. You know, TCU didn't shoot a free throw in the game.
I saw that.
None. And my immediate thought was, welcome to Nashville. You know,
Yeah, that's exactly
if anybody
right.
in the SEC has any sympathy for you.
That's
I
why when I see fans criticize Avery and them for not winning there, I'm like, have people followed basketball? Like winning there, if you win there, there is a celebration in the locker room. I don't care what Vandy team you're playing.
They say to me,
Right.
how did you win that SEC tournament at Vanderbilt? I said, because we didn't have to play Vanderbilt. We played Tennessee.
But yeah, TCU shot 0 free throws. I was like, yep, I've been to that game before.
Yeah, we've seen that movie.
Vandy shoots about 16 and you shoot 9. So,
But I think that bodes well for SEC as long as now you can get quality wins within the league, which you hadn't been able to do in years past. So I could see 7 or 8 teams getting in now. Cecil, could you?
I could certainly see 7. You end up with some really big games, and teams beat themselves up a little bit. You know, Missouri will play Alabama. That's a big game. Somebody's not going to win Wednesday night, and so you want to stay in the. But I think if the teams that stay in the upper half of the league this year, I don't know what's going to happen with Texas A&M. You know, they've got a really strong non-conference, but they got to win a little more in the conference than they're winning. But if you can stay up. Certainly if you're in that top 4, I think you're fine. And really, I think if you stay in the top 7, I think you've got a pretty good shot this year because everybody's RPI is good, and because there's nobody in the league. You know, last year LSU's RPI was in the 200s. I think Auburn was around 150, and there's nobody like that this year that's pulling people down when you play. You know, every game better to win than lose, but the games don't kill you because of RPI.
Yeah, that.
I don't have anything else. I appreciate Cease being on.
Cecil, I want to ask you this before we let you go.
Uh-huh.
I think if that SEC tournament this year was in Atlanta or Nashville, man, that thing would be a tough ticket. I think everybody has hope this year. It being in St. Louis, what do you think about that? Will it be a tough ticket in St. Louis?
I think it'll be okay. Missouri's playing well enough, better than last year. I think if Michael Porter hadn't gotten hurt and were playing, that would help because they'd be better. Because they tell me he's legitimately as good as Bagley and Ayton. But they're at least competitive and will be in that thing. And then there are parts of Kentucky and Western Kentucky where you're closer to St. Louis than you are to Lexington. So now those aren't highly populated parts, but the Kentucky people will be there.
Well, they're always there, though. I was talking about maybe the other schools may travel better this year.
I think that there's some that I think Tennessee will probably have some folks there, and if Arkansas keeps winning, that's closer than Atlanta for an Arkansas fan. So I think it'll be. I'm interested to see it, but I think it'll be okay. I think the attendance will be good.
Well, Cecil, as always,
thanks,
we
appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Good thing.